Hey everybody, I'm back. Hopefully everything will work good this time. Sometimes I have some little glitches that I can't prevent. And so if you missed the last one on the Southern Breakfast, you can watch it on YouTube. For some reason, it didn't stream everywhere it was supposed to stream on Facebook. So hopefully this one's working. So if you are on, let me know. I got the comments enabled and I'm starting to lose my voice, so bear with me. I am drinking some turmeric tea. This is a turmeric, golden turmeric chai tea with cinnamon, ginger root, turmeric, orange peel, cardamom seed and cloves. Hello, Barbara. And this is a very soothing tea. I drink all decaf herbal teas. That's pretty good. And then occasionally I drink Dandy Blend. For those of you who've been watching me every day, I've been drinking the Dandy Blend, which is made from different roots. So it has roasted barley extracts, rye extracts, chicory root extracts, and roasted dandelion root. So this is good. I've been drinking that in the morning. Excuse me. In the morning, I drink the Dandy Blend, and then in the afternoon, I start drinking the turmeric or wild orange tea. Terry says, I've been enjoying spending our weekend with you. Okay, well, hi, Leanne, Belinda, Christy, Carol, and Parta. She was just watching the replay. Great. Carol, Barbara, Debbie. Okay, I'm on YouTube. I went and printed this recipe out so I could make notes as you make the recipe. Okay, good. So I have the recipe for the tomato soup. And I have to say that it is somewhat similar to my tomato soup recipe, which is in my soups class. So I have a soups class on my channel, on my website. Oh, speaking of that, I'm going to get the link to the bundle and put it on here. I keep forgetting. This series of videos was to help promote the bundle, which is available until tomorrow. And the ebook that this tomato soup is from is in the bundle. Debbie Jo says she loves Dandy Blend. Great. It's so good. And anyway, as I was looking at the recipe, I said, oh, I have a tomato soup recipe too. So I pulled mine out to compare. But this recipe is in an ebook called Plantifull Fare with Italian Flair by Donna Spencer. And I think it's a really good recipe, but I don't know until I make it how it's going to turn out. So I'm going to make it, and I'm going to get my stove turned on so I can get it kind of heated up. First thing we're going to do is, oops, come on stove, there it goes. First thing I'm going to do is it calls for cutting up 1 cup of finely chopped onions. So, first it wants us to strain the tomato sauce. So we'll do that before we chop the onions. So it has a 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes, which I got. They're organic. And it says to strain the tomatoes over a bowl to save the juice. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow her recipe. I don't do that in mine, but she has a reason for doing it. And we'll just let this sit over here while we're getting the onions in, okay? So I probably should scrape that out a little bit to get all of it. Always a good idea. You'd be surprised at how much you can waste. Leanne says you've promoted this year's bundle more than anyone I've seen, except maybe Chef AJ. Well, I was on her show too, so but yeah, she always does. She has 3 people on every day during the bundle, so she wins by far because that means she's had at least 30 people, probably more. Hi, Lydia. So, she has a lot more than I do, but, she has a channel she goes live on every day. I don't. So, yeah, by the time I get done, I will have done about 20 videos, I think. 20 videos in 10 days. That's a lot for me. I've never done that many, not full cooking videos. Like, my videos are all like an hour long or more. Some of them are more than that. So it's like they're full videos, which is crazy if you think about it. Who wants to watch all that stuff? Tammy has been on every day too. Yeah, Tammy, she was smart though. She recorded a lot of her stuff before the bundle week. And so she didn't have to do it all the last 10 days. That's the smart thing to do. I was gone. I got back. I was on the cruise to Tahiti the week before the bundle. So when I got back, I had just a few days to orient myself and all that. So it was it's been pretty hectic. But yeah, she's done a really good job. She's on all the time. She's got all kinds of things that she does about how to use the bundle and how to store it and all these other kinds of things. So she's really on top of everything. She's smart. Of course, one advantage she has is she has her husband who is her tech support, and he's always there running all the equipment and doing everything. So I wish I had that support, because in my house I have me, and that's it. My husband does not know anything. If he doesn't know, I mean, he knows how to use what he needs for work, but he doesn't know anything that I do. He will come and help me, like, when I'm doing my Zoom classes, he looks at the chat messages and reads them out to me so I don't have to look at them while I'm cooking. So he does help me with that, but he doesn't really understand or want to get involved with the technical stuff. Belinda says, enjoy the interaction. I feel connected to people who eat like me. That's good. Yeah, I think that's true. Penny's back. I love tomato soup, but I'm watching the last 6 minutes of Drake basketball. It's on TV. I understand. Watch your basketball game. You can come back and watch me. It'll be recorded. I'm not offended. My husband's in there watching some kind of sports. So this looks like about a cup right here. I can use the rest of the onions for my tofu scramble and tofu scramble fried rice later today. I told my husband, I said, that's what we're having for dinner, tofu scramble fried rice. So with these onions, I'm going back through and I'm chopping them up, because in her recipe, she says to chop the onions up fine. So my normal chopped onions are 1/4 inch, and I don't think that's very fine. Carol says, I love your cooking demos, relaxed, real, and great info. I enjoy them, and in my fast-paced life, it helps me calm down. Better than the food channel. Thank you. Yeah, the thing about the cooking channels is we don't eat any of that food. I used to watch Food Network all the time back in the early 2000s. That was how I got the idea to become a chef, because I thought it was so much fun watching all those cooking shows. See what I'm doing? I'm just piling up the onions and running my knife through them to get it to be a finer cut than what I had originally. So that way the pieces are a lot smaller than what I normally use. And then I'll put it in the pan. And I did put this in my Amazon store. So there is an Amazon store link for all the bundle items. And now this is in there, this scraper tool. It really comes in handy, because it's hard to pick up all that stuff without something to put it on. It just takes forever. Tom eats this way. That's huge. Having someone to support your meal plan would be very helpful. Yeah, that is nice. But she was saying today that it took him about a year before he was on board. So he wasn't always plant-based. In the beginning, apparently, he wasn't. And she was plant-based for a year before he was. Okay, so I'm going to get these onions. I've got the pan turned down to low. It was kind of sizzling. So we'll get that going while we do the other things. You can see that where I've got that. Hi, Kim. Glad to have you back. Kim has the same bench scraper, and she loves it. Okay, so it says to saute the onions with salt, pepper, and chili flakes. So let me put some, we'll put some pepper. And she says don't brown them, just cook them until they're like translucent, until they're soft but without color. And I'll add a little bit of my ground sea salt. And if they get a little hot, then I'll add some water or vegetable. I have some vegetable broth here, so they don't get any color, according to her recipe. So I've got my vegetable broth here. They're still doing okay, so I'm not going to add that quite yet. And remember, I have the tomatoes here. Christy says my husband isn't plant-based, but he enjoys being my recipe tester. Well, that's good. You don't really need to eat everything to enjoy eating somebody's cooking. Carol said she read an article about Trader Joe's small parking lots. The parking is according to the square foot of the store, not how popular. I think Trader Joe's should be excused from that formula. Yeah, those parking lots, they get on my nerves because they're like the busiest place in the area, and there's cars streaming in and out, and they're just waiting for accidents to happen. And I see it all the time. I'll see people pulling in and out, not watching what they're doing. I'm going to put a little of my veggie broth in here, and I'm going to cover this up to cook the onions down. And that works really well too. When your onions have that, they're hard and they're not cooked very well. They have a raw taste, and that kind of can ruin the flavor of your soup or your food because, especially in a mellow soup like tomato soup, we don't want to taste raw onions. So because we're not sauteing in oil, the onions tend to not mellow as much as they do the old-fashioned way. So one way I found around that was to put a little stock or water in the pan and cover it for about 5 minutes. And that will soften up the onions without getting them brown, and it will keep them from having that bitter onion taste when you have your finished product. Okay, so okay. Now all we have to do is add the tomatoes, and we're going to cook until they're thick and most of the liquid has evaporated. And we're going to stir constantly, breaking up the tomatoes, and that gives us a deeper flavor. Okay, so we're going to do that. Penny says she has the same pot. This was a gift from my husband. Of course, it's a Le Creuset, and it's that Caribbean blue, I believe. And I love it. I love it. He's given me all kinds of other stuff. One of my favorite things, I'm kind of waiting for these onions to cook, so I'll show you my other favorite tool that was also a gift from him. He got me a bread oven. So they didn't have it in the same color, but so now my sourdough bread, I cook it in the bread oven. And it's so good because it has the big top so you don't burn yourself putting your bread in. It's a Le Creuset, Lecreuset, Le Creuset. So that keeps me busy cooking. And now when the bundle is over, I'm going to start my sourdough bread making again. Okay, let's see. I think these are good. The onions look like they're getting nice and soft. I've got a little bit of broth in here, so I'm gonna turn it up and let the broth evaporate a little bit. Okay, let me get the bundle link on here. Pam says Steve is the best. Pam knows my husband. She's met him before. We've been out to see her. She's been here, and even though Steve is not following what I do, he supports what I do 100%. So if we travel, he's the person that will say, okay, I'm going to add these. He's the person that will say, he doesn't care. He'll go wherever I can find something that I can eat, even if that means he's eating stuff that he doesn't really love. He'll look up all the vegan places in the area. I mean, he'll look up all the vegan places. I'm going to kind of smash these tomatoes down because what she says to do is cook the tomatoes and cook until thick and most of the liquid has evaporated. Stir constantly, breaking up the tomatoes. Well, I think a better way to break them up is to get them with my potato masher instead of stirring them. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to let them cook until this has become thickened and all the juice is evaporated. And you can kind of see, I think I can get the camera view over here so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so, he'll be, no, it doesn't look like that camera's connected. That's weird. Let me try it one more time. So instead of me being the one to be looking for places, he's the one. Well, I don't see it. Let me see. Click to start. Nope, that camera's not showing up. I'll just have to pick up my pot and show you. Weird. And now this is working. This is working pretty good. Oh, here it goes. It just took a minute to load up. It doesn't do it quickly. Okay, so you can kind of see that I'm just mashing it up. And this is the canned tomatoes, so they're whole tomatoes. And since they're whole tomatoes, you know, they're not chopped, they're not pureed, they're whole, so they're pretty big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just chopping them all up with my masher, and they're also cooking down because that was her whole point, was to get them to cook down and thicken. So that's what we're doing, and we'll continue to do that. See if there's any other questions or comments. Whose recipe is this? I'd like to print it. This is from, what was her name? Donna Spencer, and it's called Plantifull Fare with Italian Flair. It's a tongue twister, and it's called her Italian bread and tomato soup. I think I need to turn this down a little bit. Did you see a cardinal in the backyard? There's a bunch of them coming back and forth. There's, you know, different bird feeders. And there's bird feeder over. Oh, that's a bluebird. Oh my goodness. There's a beautiful bluebird that just flew over here behind me. Okay, she's the one who had the zucchini soup. And she texted me and thanked me for making her zucchini soup on YouTube. She saw it and she liked it, so that was good. Penny says, I've done bread in the soup pot. Yes, I used to use this same pot here to make my bread. But the issue, and the reason they came out with a bread oven type of a thing, is because when you make bread, you heat your pot up for about, whatever, 30 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes. And then you take the hot pot out, and then you lower your bread dough into the pot. Well, there's a lot of side edges that you can burn yourself on when you're doing that, so it can be a little difficult. So the bread oven is very shallow, so you don't have to put it down into a pot. It just sits on a shallow pot. Look, there's just so many birds. I'm seeing them in my camera. There's a cardinal right there now. It's that time of year. Okay, so this is good. The tomatoes are cooking down, and they'll be good. So we'll make her soup, and then I'll tell you my recipe after we make her recipe. And then we can make adjustments if needed. We'll taste it, and then if we want to change it up some, we will. I might, modify it a little bit. I can't leave stuff alone. I think I modified the Tim Kaufman's veggie burgers a little too much. Would diced tomatoes work? I guess they would, but her recipe called for whole tomatoes. So that's what I got. Hi, Terry Moses. I think maybe the whole tomatoes taste better. There must be a reason that she chose the whole tomatoes, because, you can get them crushed. Maybe they don't taste as good. In my recipe, I used crushed tomatoes, probably because I thought it would be easier. Okay, I'm going to let this go just a little bit longer, but I have had to really mash it with my potato masher. Okay, let's see. Got a loaf of sourdough cooling on the counter right now. Just need the pot of tomato soup to go with it. Oh boy, you're going to have a feast. Making your own sourdough bread. That's mom caregiver. Well, be sure and grab the bundle while we still have it. It ends tomorrow. And we don't have any sourdough bread recipes in it, but we do have the tomato soup recipe in it. Okay, I think I'm ready to add the other stuff. I've got it pretty well mashed up. There's still some solid pieces. I'm probably going to later on, I'll get my immersion blender. I didn't bring it in because the recipe didn't call for that. But if you don't like the texture of something, if it's got too many lumps, you can always take an immersion blender and blend it around. Okay, then it says, break up the tomatoes, add in the reserved tomato juice. So we'll add this in. Remember, we drained the tomatoes, so that's why we had that juice. And then it says to add the vegetable stock, which I have 3 cups. So remember, my vegetable stock story is, I'm doing it the easy way using a jar of vegetable bouillon paste. But I recommend that you make your own or make it in the Instant Pot. Somebody said they made theirs in the Instant Pot, which works really well too. You can put all your vegetables in there. I think whole tomatoes have less salt. Yes, they do. This can of tomatoes only has 65 milligrams of sodium per half cup. When I've seen the other tomatoes, they usually have like 200 milligrams. Okay, now she also says to put tomato paste. She says to use a whole can. I'm going to use half a can. And the reason for that is I kind of like it with less tomato paste. That's just my personal taste. So I'm going to leave that up to you. Add more if you like a stronger tomato taste. And I think a whole can is a lot for me. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just adding half the can of tomato paste. Now there's some, that's just a lump of tomato paste. So it's getting stirred around. Make sure you stir it in well. And then some of the other ingredients in her soup are as follows. A teaspoon of agave. I don't use agave that much, but I happen to have some organic light agave. And so I'm going to put my teaspoon of agave in there. Normally I would use maple syrup or date syrup, but agave is fine. I think maple syrup is in my recipe. And then 4 sprigs of fresh basil plus more to garnish. Let's see what else goes in here. Basil, agave, tomato paste. Okay, we're going to cook it for 20 more minutes. And then she says to add the bread. So I'm going to show you my bread. I have some sourdough bread that was in my freezer. And I'm not going to put it in the soup. But I'm going to show you what you would do if you were going to put it in the soup. I'm cutting the crusts off for one thing because my crust had, this particular one has sesame seeds on the crust. I don't think we want that in our Italian tomato soup. But if you were going to put sourdough bread in your soup, she says to have a cup of it and put it in there. So the Italian way of cooking is to use your stale bread in soup. So when I was in Italy a few years ago, the tour guide that was taking us for a food tour, she was very small, like very petite and thin. And she was taking us to all these places that had real heavy food. Like, at that time I wasn't plant-based. It was back in 2011. And she was taking us to all these places that had huge things of meat hanging down and, pasta and cheese shops and charcuterie places. And I mean, it was crazy, heavy food. So she didn't look like the kind of person that ate that much of that kind of food. So here's what she calls for is 1 cup of stale sourdough bread. I'm not going to put it in the soup. I prefer to make croutons with it and put it on the soup at the end. And I'll tell you how to do that if you choose to do that. Or if you make this, you can follow along the way she makes it and put the bread in the soup, because that's what she's saying to do. It's because it's called Italian bread and tomato soup. So she says to add the bread at this stage right now. And there's just something about that I don't really want to do. So I'm not going to do it. It might be good. Oh my, the Kale Awards are on. I hope you get one. Have you heard if you won? No, I have no idea about their Kale Awards. But let me know. I don't know who gets them. I guess they give them to their favorite people, their favorite contributors to the bundle. But that's a cool idea. I like that. Kale Awards. You guys need to let me know if I win, because I'm not going to have time to watch it. I'm too busy. I'm too busy doing my own filming. Okay, so it's coming along, but see what I worry about is there's some big pieces of tomato in here. So what are you supposed to do with those? I guess they'll cook down over 20 minutes, but if not, remember you have your immersion blender, so we can blitz it with the immersion blender. Mung bean, Kim Keenan says, my mung beans were just delivered. Only problem is not mung beans, it's a horror movie ordered from Amazon. Has anyone had this happen? What do you mean? What's wrong with it? It's literally a horror movie? Or you're saying the beans look like a horror movie? Please clarify. What is the purpose of the stale bread? You know, the woman who was our tour guide, whatever she told me was she said that she doesn't eat all that meat and cheese and pasta all the time. She said they eat stuff like salad with stale bread. You know, you've heard of the salad where pieces of stale bread are in the salad. And then she said they make ribollita soup where they put stale bread. Oh, okay. I did win an award for the award is the most excellent plant-based breakfast recipes in a bundle. All right. See? Hey, you guys. I'm doing good. If I won one of her kale awards, I'll have to watch that episode. I'm glad to hear it. She did. They did make my sausage and just egg copycat, and they said they liked it. So anyway, that tour guide told me that they would use because they buy bread all the time in Italy. They get loaves of bread every day, and when the bread gets stale, they don't want to waste it, so they put it in the soup. So the purpose of putting the bread in the soup is to use up the bread. I'm gonna not do that and put the bread as a crouton just because I kind of like that better. Because I have made soup with bread. They loved your omelet recipe. Well, we made that a little while ago, and I'm telling you, it's a good thing, especially if you haven't had anything. I won. Oh, okay. So I wonder who else they nominated. I'll have to watch that. That's funny. So, you work hard and you get recognition, just like the Academy Awards. And there are some strange movies that got recognition. I was watching reading something, and it said to watch The Substance for Demi Moore's role. That turned out to be a horror movie. It was kind of scary toward the end. I'm saying, if you watch it, be warned. It's not a. Yes, I won for the 21 day. I guess that name of my book is the 21 day challenge meal plan. Okay, so that's the name of my book. So great. This is an old Italian soup recipe. It's a way to use up stale bread. Yes, Lydia. That's what I was saying, that my bread is not that stale, and I think I'm just going to use it as a crouton, but you have the choice when you make it. Now I want to show you what happened. I forgot about my basil, and it was sitting in the drawer of the refrigerator, and it got brown. So I immediately stuck it in some water. I deserve the win. I hope that makes people buy the bundle. Tom really liked the mung beans. So now I'm dedicated and not distracted anymore. That looks good. I have San Marzano tomatoes. Okay, so since my basil got kind of brown around the edges, I'm going to find the best leaves in the bunch. And there's a few in here that aren't too bad, and they're going to go in the soup, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to pick a few of the ones that are the least brown, because there's enough that I can salvage this, because it only says 4 sprigs, and I'm going to pick the nicest ones. The only thing is I won't have any pretty ones to garnish. Oh, this one's not bad. I'll cut the brown part off. And I think I can find enough in here to garnish the soup at the end. Like this sprig is pretty good looking. So whenever you think something's ruined, just try to salvage it, because you can probably find something useful. So I found enough of unblemished basil leaves. Okay, so when you make this soup, you decide if you want to put the bread in it or use the bread on the side and make croutons with it. It's up to you. I just have I hardly ever make anybody's recipe exactly how they make it because I think that you don't have to do that. You can make it however you want it. Okay, I think that's enough basil. I have enough right here. So, has anyone ever tried to replicate the tomato basil soup from the restaurant called La Madeleine? They have them all over the place. That was what I tried to do with my recipe. So I'll tell you about that after I do this. So I'm going to roll the basil leaves up. Okay. And she even has that to maximize basil's flavor, stack, roll, and twist the leaves to release their oils without tearing. So that she says to roll it up and twist them without tearing them. And then we're going to put the leaves in, but I'm going to cut them up because she says to put chopped leaves for the, let's see, 4 sprigs of fresh basil. Well, I'm gonna kind of slice it, and I'm gonna stick it in here. Recipes are guides. Terry says, I like the crouton idea. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these in the oven at 400 for 6 to 8 minutes until they get crispy, and then I'll just put them on the top, and then they'll still dissolve into the soup. That's just the way I'm gonna do it. So I added the basil. Oh, this is starting to cook down now. That time passed, and the tomatoes are starting to kind of melt into the soup, and they're nice. You know, you can still see there's tomatoes in here, but they've really softened quite a bit. So I think we're good. I'm still going to go through and kind of mash it one more time with my masher. Make sure I didn't leave any big chunks. Okay, so we have to let this cook for about 20 minutes. I didn't really see any big chunks. I'm going to taste it just to see what it tastes like right now. Okay, I like tomato basil, have not had a La Madeleine soup. Okay, somebody watching me has had La Madeleine tomato basil soup, so I'm just going to wait. Okay, let's taste this. It's going to be hot. Husband is on the phone with Amazon right now getting a refund. So it was literally a horror movie. This is really good. Man, for being this simple, this soup actually tastes delicious. I'm kind of surprised at how good just the tomatoes and the basil and the onions. So be sure and follow her instructions and get the exact kind of the whole tomatoes and mash them up, use an immersion blender, whatever, because these tomatoes, the whole tomatoes taste really good and it's not too salty, but it has the right amount of salt. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of the instructions. Basically, it just says to cook it for 20 minutes, season with salt and pepper, serve warm or chilled. Okay, so we could serve this soup warm or cold. I'm going to serve it warm, and I have a pretty bowl to put it in. I'm kind of trimming my brown leaf. I'll put a couple of leaves on there. Okay, so the bowl I'm going to serve it in is this bowl here. It has little honeybees on it. It's a pretty bowl, pretty color for the red. So I've got that ready to go. But I'm going to let this simmer for a few more minutes, and then we'll talk about optional tomato soup recipes. So the reason, let me stir it one more time. Do you think you can use maple syrup? Yes, maple syrup, date syrup. It's just this little sweetener because, you know, tomatoes are kind of acidic. So having something sweet to add to the acidic tomato soup will kind of make the flavor a little bit more mellow. That's the reason they add some kind of sugar to tomato soup. Okay, so this tomato soup, then we can either put the bread in it. It's not that much bread. You can either put the bread in it or we can cook the bread and make croutons. So let me go ahead and toast the bread up since I keep talking about it. I have baking sheets ready in here, and it's not that hard to do. I say that now, I don't see a baking sheet anywhere. Okay, well, so much for that idea. Here, I have one over here. I'll do that later because I don't want to have my hot oven on and not be baking something. So anyway, I will later make my croutons and set them on top of the soup. But you have the option of putting this in here and cooking it. And maybe that would make it taste even better. I don't know. Do you guys want me to put the bread in the soup? Or do you want me to leave it the way I have it? What do you say? Give me some yeses or nos. Uh, TS, Gail says, I have not had tomato soup since I was a kid, and the best meal was grilled cheese and tomato soup. I think you were wise to use half a can of paste. It would be far too acidic for me. Yeah, my taste buds are less acidic. So I'm the person that doesn't love a lot of vinegar and tomato paste and stuff. So that's kind of my approach is I don't like a lot of things that have strong tomato flavor. Um, some people say yes. Could you spritz with aquafaba and toss with nutritional yeast? Okay, I'm going to put the bread in. Okay, I got the bread in. Someone said on top, I'm going to put the bread in. We'll follow her recipe and see what happens because it really tastes good. And that wasn't very much bread. Okay, Debbie Jo said, I had a Madeline soup a long time ago, but don't order it anymore because of the dairy. Okay, so, oh, this looks pretty interesting. I I put I live dangerously and I put the bread in the soup, so look at it. It doesn't look bad and it will melt. So I'm going with the spirit of her recipe because it tasted so good. I thought, you know what, maybe that bread will take it over the top. If not, it's okay. It's not going to taste bad, but it's really a nice flavored bread, a nice flavored soup. I love it. Okay, so the soup looks great. I think it's going to be my dinner tonight, even though I'm making tofu scrambled fried rice. Looks like a great tomato soup. The bread will probably thicken the soup. Yeah, it should. We'll see what happens. We'll keep cooking it. Okay, so now let me tell you about what I would do to this recipe when I made my own tomato soup. Is I liked, Gail said she would put the bread in and also a few toasted pieces on top. Yeah, that's an option. Pretty Dutch oven. Thank you, Terry. This is my Le Creuset Dutch oven, and I don't use it as often as I should. Oops, splashing tomatoes on me. In case you're wondering, I have about 10 of these t-shirts. Every day you see me, I'm wearing a different one. It's like I'm running out of black t-shirts. I'm going to have to wash some more. I've done a couple loads of laundry in the past 9 days, and I keep wearing all these, my collection of my own t-shirts. Okay, so what I would do, and I can do this, but I don't have to, is when I made my tomato soup recipe, it has pretty much the same ingredients as onion, but it has garlic and chopped carrots, tomato paste, half a can. It has a 28-ounce can of tomatoes, just like this. And then it also has a cup of fresh Roma tomatoes, probably because I had tomatoes from my garden. Maple syrup. Then it has Italian herbs, paprika, salt and pepper, vegetable stock, basil. But the big difference here is to my soup, I added a half a cup of cashew cream. Let's see, how would you like to eat it? We can imagine either way. Croutons sound better to me, however you want. Who is eating all the food you were cooking? I should have been there. Yeah, guess what? My husband is eating some of it, but a lot of it is in my refrigerator. Anything that was made in the past 4 days is in my refrigerator. If it was made before that, it's frozen, what we didn't eat. All the cookies are in the freezer, and I'll get out one or two here and there. And like a few minutes ago, I had a pistachio energy ball. It was so good. It was delicious. A day later. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to do a marathon. So starting at 8 o'clock p.m., I'm going to go live, and I'm going to have all the food out. I've got a table set up in here. And I'm going to bring in all the food I've made the whole bundle week. And I'm going to go through and show everybody what it is, taste it. It's going to be funny. I'm going to taste it and let you see it. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to bring it all to my friends. So, because I don't have room for all this food. It's like you can only have so many things in your fridge. And I'm meeting a friend for lunch. So I'll have my friend, I'll give her some of the things, some cookies, and I'll bring her some of the cooked things. Okay, Leanne Long says, I found that tomato powder is a great substitute for tomato paste and a lot sweeter. Yeah, I have tomato powder. I could use that. All right, so I'm going to ask you for one more vote. Now, when I make this tomato soup for myself, let me get the spoon and taste it one more time. Oh, I can't wait to have this for dinner. Just a mug of tomato soup sounds really good. You know, the bread didn't really change the taste of it. It's just as good either way. Okay, so the one more change that we could do to modify this, we don't have to, but I have this left from this morning. I have a half cup of cashew milk, and I can add this to make it creamy. So what do you think? Should I do that or not? Tell me what you think. My friend Lydia says my friend is lucky. You know, this friend that I'm meeting for lunch, she's also been through a really tough time, just, a really sad situation, kind of same kind of things I've been going through. And I've been bringing her food for the last year, like soups and dinners and whatever. And, she's plant-based, just like me, whole food plant-based. And it's really wonderful to see how much people appreciate home cooked food. Okay, Gail says add it. Yes, creamy. All right. So it tastes good without it. Okay, it didn't need this at all. It was fine without it. So I don't want to say that it needed it, but I have it right here. So it kind of seems like a shame not to use it. So I'm going to add that. I would eat one bowl without, yeah, well, too late now. It didn't really change it too much. It made it a little bit mellower. So I would say, unless you really love creamy stuff, you don't have to do that. I'll show you how it looks now. It's a little bit lighter, and I'm sure that it tastes good. And this is so tempting to me. I'm going to get a little bit and taste it now with the creamy. Oh my goodness. That, adding the cream to it made it even better. It kind of like, if you don't like acidic stuff, I'll put it where you can see it better. See how it's got the basil in there, and you can see the bread, but it's broken down. So this soup has a little bit of texture to it. It's not just a thin soup, which I think is kind of good. This is a great soup, you guys. You really need to make this soup. Get the bundle just for this soup. And then if you want to add some kind of plant milk to it, you have to be careful because some plant milk has a weird taste, like soy milk and almond milk. When you add it to a savory item, sometimes it makes it taste bad. I'm just saying. The reason I use cashew cream is because it's very neutral. It doesn't give it any weird taste, but it makes it creamy. So if you're not going to add cashew cream, I would just don't make it creamy. Debbie Jo says, invite your husband to be a taster tomorrow. It would be fun to get his opinion. Maybe I'll have him come in and taste cookies. We'll see. We'll see if he's willing. He might be. You never know. Okay, so I added half a cup of cashew cream, and I'm going to put it on my little copy of the recipe here, so I'll remember. The only other things I had in my recipe that is Italian herbs, seasoning, and paprika. But I'm not going to change her flavor profile because I think hers tastes good the way it is. 1/2 cup cashew cream. Oat milk. Yeah, I think oat milk is pretty neutral. I think that would be a safe one to use. So yeah, oat milk doesn't really have much of a taste. So yeah, you could add that as long as it doesn't have any additives. Okay, let's go ahead and plate this. I think it's done enough. All right. Oh, the bundle link. I'll put the bundle link on right now. I've got it available. Maryland. Oh, yeah. If you haven't gotten the bundle yet, I hope you get it because it's out tomorrow. It's no longer going to be available. So a lot of people wait. They think, oh, I got plenty of time, and then they get busy, and then they forget to get it. And then usually the next day after it's over, they'll start seeing all the videos, and they'll say, oh man, that bundle, I forgot all about it. I need to get it now. And then I'll have to tell them, nope, sorry, no bundle for you. Okay, wiping my bowl. I'm going to put one pretty basil leaf on it. And then we can also put some fresh cracked pepper on top if we want to. That's up to you. I think that would be a good addition, just a little. Let me get my spoon. And then we can enjoy this luscious, creamy basil. Oh, this soup tastes better than the La Madeleine soup. I can taste the onions. I can taste the the sweetness of it, and I think having the tomatoes where you can actually taste the tomatoes is actually a positive because it makes it more substantial than if it was just a watery soup. So Elizabeth McDonald said, I bought it from your link yesterday. It's such a great value. Thank you, Elizabeth. I believe it is. If I didn't think it was a great thing to do, I wouldn't be doing all this stuff because I wouldn't want to waste my time. There went a really bright bluebird. This is just great. This time of year, my house, I live in the country and I'm surrounded by trees and birds and bird feeders and deer and squirrels and road runners, and it's very distracting because I'm in this room that used to be our patio, so I can see out all the windows, and I keep seeing these beautiful birds flying by, so I kind of have to look. So excuse me. Um, yeah, I think this. Leanne says the bundle is so diverse this year. I love it. Yeah, this soup is just really wonderful. If you could smell it, would you add the bread if you'd make it again? Yes, it's really good. You can't even taste the bread now that it's been in there. I would add the bread. I would get the best sourdough bread you can find. And, it's supposed to be stale, so you need to let it sit out for a couple days or toast it. If you can't make it stale, because, stale bread has been sitting around for a few days. Like when I start making sourdough bread again, I would have something like that. But if you buy bread and it's fresh, you can make it stale by putting it in the oven for 6 or 8 minutes at 400 degrees and get it kind of crunchy, and then it's the same thing. And then cut the crusts off. So yes, I would add the bread. I feel stupid for saying that I didn't want to add the bread, but I think that makes the recipe even better. It does make it have a nicer texture. So, add the bread. And the soup is really, really wonderful. It doesn't need anything with it, but this is the kind of thing that goes really well with my sourdough bread that I make. So I would, I could take a piece of my sourdough bread, homemade, toast it, put some hummus on it or some avocado, and make a little piece of hummus toast or avocado toast. And, not a huge piece, but like, a good sized piece. And then have that with my tomato soup. So yeah, you guys, you need to make this right away and make it exactly like she says with the bread. Cut the onions up small and add the bread in and use these tomatoes that have a little sodium but not too much. I can't stop eating it. So remember, that's so good. My tomatoes had 65 milligrams of sodium per half cup. And this makes about, let's see, she says, I think 4 servings. 4 servings. So, that's not that much. You might get 100 milligrams of sodium, and we didn't put, I think we just put a little bit of salt in here, not that much. I'm going to turn it off the heat. You won another award for my cookies. All right. So, what was that award? best cookie recipe. Well, I don't think there were many cookie recipes, so that's good though. I'm so glad to hear that. Thanks, Debbie Jo. I need to watch that show. Best cookie, best cookie in the bundle. Okay. Well, I did hear that Tammy said, it was funny, just don't mind me while I talk and eat the soup because I don't have to chew it. Okay, I got another Kale Award. I got the Cookie Award and the Best Breakfast. All right, that's pretty cool. So let me turn this off. And I guess I need to watch it. Oh, I know. Tammy said that she made my breakfast cookies. They're in the cookie book, and they're called. Okay, so my two books. Here's the other one, Cookie, Plant-Based Cookies, in the bundle. There is a recipe in here called breakfast cookies, and it has mashed bananas, date syrup, nut butter, rolled oats, almond flour, pumpkin seed, protein powder is optional. But anyway, the she made the breakfast cookies and she brought some to Chef AJ, and Chef AJ ate some. But Tammy said those were the best plant-based cookies she's ever had. So breakfast cookies, people. I guess I should make them. The carrot cake cookies are addictive. Good, I love those. Okay, I love this soup. I could eat this all day long. And it's very mellow. It doesn't have that acidic taste because of I think the bread and the whole tomatoes, and then adding the half a cup of cashew cream, I think was a big um, kind of a positive thing to do. So be sure and do that. The peanut butter cookies are so good, according to Kim. Yeah, the peanut butter cookies, you can't go wrong. I mean, it's peanut butter, but they don't have all the butter and the sugar and the oil and stuff in the regular peanut butter cookies. So what I try to do is I take the cravings we have for conventional food, like eggs and sausage, or sushi, or stuff that a lot of us used to eat, and I try to turn it into something that we could enjoy now and make it whole food, plant-based. And of course, my food is not completely salt free. I do use some sugar, sometimes date sugar, date syrup, some maple syrup, but I'm trying to minimize that. But I try to make it taste really good because what I've found is um, when people try the whole food, plant-based lifestyle and they feel like the food they're eating isn't very tasty and doesn't really satisfy them, they won't stay with it. They'll do it for a little while, and then they'll say, oh, well, somebody was having a birthday, or somebody was having something, or my kids were coming over and I was so tempted by the grilled whatever. So if you have your own special recipes to make, and let's say that I make grilled fajitas on the grill with vegetables and potatoes and tofu and all kinds of stuff. And then I serve them with beans and corn tortillas and guacamole. And it's a feast. I mean, it's delicious. And everybody else, they can cook whatever they want, but I have something that I really like. So while they're eating their feast of whatever meat they cooked, I grill my vegetables first before they use the grill. So then they grill whatever they want. But I have my own feast in the summertime from the grill. And that way I can stick with this. I don't feel like, oh, well, it's no fun. There's nothing good to eat. People start feeling bad. Okay, Angie says froze the peanut butter cookies, hoping to last, but they are almost gone already. Time to make some more. Okay, one last taste of the soup. I'll taste a bite with the bread. Yeah, that bread works. I can't wait to try it with my newer bread that I've perfected. So this is a good use of my sourdough bread. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, everybody. I can only say make the soup, and this soup is drinkable too. So when you're busy and you don't want to sit down and eat a meal, you can drink a mug of soup, right? So this is a good drinkable soup. And all it needs is Doesn't need anything added to it. A basil leaf, for a garnish. Does anyone in the bundle do wraps? Laura, Melissa Maris has one of her books. Look at all of Melissa Maris's books. And they told me that one of them, there's the link again before I sign off. Let's see, Melissa Maris, Raw Food Romance. Okay. Um, I think it was her Tales from the Tailgate, Raw on the Road, maybe the one that has the wraps in it. But she has about 8 books, and there's one of her books has wraps. So look at her books. I'm not sure which one. Where can I find your tomato soup recipe and your hummingbird cake? Okay, my soup recipe is in a class called Soups, and it was from last year. So if you go on my website under the shop section, and so it's chef-julia.com, and then there's a section called shop. It has about 63 classes that I've taught. And there's a picture of each class, and it will have the recipes usually. And there's a class I taught, I think it was maybe 2023, called Soups. And there's a mushroom soup, potato soup, tomato soup, all kinds of soup. It's a really good class, if I may say so myself. Get that class because any plant-based soup you ever want is in that class, pretty much. And then hummingbird cake is in comfort food class. So look for the comfort food class and click on it, and it'll tell you the recipes in it. So that's where the comfort food, the hummingbird cake is, and it was delicious too. All right, so Angie says thanks for another great show demo. I'll see you back here at 6 o'clock, and we're going to make tofu scramble fried rice, and it's going to be delicious. This soup is really soothing to my hoarse voice. I think I'm going to keep eating it. All right, everybody. Make the soup. It's really good. I'm going to send Donna Spencer a message on Instagram and tell her how much we enjoyed her soup. And, well, how much I enjoyed it. You guys need to make it, but I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay, everybody. Remember, for those of you who know people that may not know about the bundle and, may not be watching all these videos, be sure and tell people, share, share the posts that you see that I post about cooking demos. You can share those with people and tell them to take a look at it, and they can get the link, and you can follow the link and see what's in the bundle before you buy it. You don't have to buy it. Okay, so I'm going to end this, and I'll be back at 6 o'clock. Bye, everybody. And thanks for telling me about the Kale Awards. I'm going to watch her video just to check on it. Thanks, everybody. Bye.